Welcome to the Speak Pact podcast, where high-performing speakers and the producers who hire them merge to give you the insider secrets to the lucrative speaking industry. Antoniette Roze, your podcast host and celebrated speaker agent, unveils insider success strategies. Discover a nexus of thought leaders and bookers, maximizing your potential in each and every episode. Your ticket to ultimate speaking success begins right here. Catch the transformative insights waiting for you on the Speak Pact podcast, hosted by the industry powerhouse herself, Antoniette Roze.
Welcome back to Speak Pact. I am thrilled that you are here. And today we are going to dive deep into the world of getting good engagements. And not just getting some good engagements, but consistently getting those. I am with a colleague and a fellow sojourner out there on the best strategies to do just that if you are serious about a serious speaking business. I have Leisa Reid with me here today. She is a speaking strategy mentor. She's CEO of the International Speaker Network. She is an award-winning speaker, a best-selling author. I think you've spoken over 600 times in 9 different, let me see my notes, 9 different countries. Is that right?
No. Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Well, welcome today. I'm really excited about diving in with you because it's kind of rare that I get to interview somebody who's really been in the trenches, like I have, with speakers for the length of time. So tell me a little bit about what got you interested in speaking initially, and now you're helping others. So tell me a little bit about that journey. Why were you interested in speaking? And then a little bit about your journey. Welcome to the stage, Leisa.
Thank you. Yeah, so excited to be here. My journey with speaking started a long time ago. I always wanted to be a teacher, even when I was a little kid. And I often say I'm a teacher. I'm a speaker disguised. Oh my gosh, I'm tripping over my words every way. I just got started. But I'm a teacher disguised as a speaker. And when I was in college, I decided to major in speech communication, and I got my bachelor's and my master's in that. And I even taught at Cal State Fullerton when I was 22 years old. I taught interpersonal communication. So there was always this desire to speak and teach that was just in my blood, in my bones. Now, fast forward a few decades, I didn't start speaking until I was 40, officially. So even though I had this desire way back when, it didn't really culminate until 2013. And I was hired by a personal development company to speak in order to generate business. So it was a business development type of situation. And luckily, the topic I would speak on was experiential learning and personal development. And it was really powerful. My job was go give people an experience of this work and then enroll them into a workshop. My first year, I booked 83 speaking engagements. And this was, even though I'd had those degrees from back when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, I didn't know how the speaking industry, quote unquote, worked. I just wasn't scared to dive in. It's my ignorance on fire moment, I think, the era of figuring it out. And that's how I got started in speaking.
I love that. And the fact that you waited to 40 just because you didn't know the ropes quite a bit. Thankfully, people now have you or me, people like us, who can help them not have to circle the mountain in the ways that we had to figure it out on our own. But I really like how you hone in and focus on helping business owners scale their impact beyond one-to-one, right? More one-to-many through the power of speaking. So can you speak to that a little bit, the difference between the audience revenue and how prosperous that can be on all levels? Yes, monetarily, but also the amount of impact that you can make and difference that you can make versus the speaker who maybe says, really, I'm only interested in getting that 10, 15, whatever $1,000 keynote check. Can we speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and I love that you and I are both in this industry and have a really different perspective or focus in this industry. And I think a lot of people think it's all the same thing. And I'm like, no, there's so many different ways you can slice and dice speaking. And so my side of speaking isn't to create full-time keynote speakers. That's someone I would send to you. It's more about like, no, you have a business that you're passionate about. You have expertise that you're passionate about. You help people, you have clients, you're a consultant, something like that. And you want to utilize public speaking as a way to attract those ideal clients. And that shift makes it, in my world, not about the keynote fee, but more about, does this audience make sense? Does this audience have potentially your clients in it? Are there opportunities for you to generate more money than what a speaker fee could generate? So that's the world that I like to play in.
Okay, wonderful. So, in your opinion, not just opinion, your long running experience, Leisa, where's the biggest revenue? Is it in speaking to build a business or awareness for a product? Is it in speaking for the keynote checks, or is there a blend of both? What have you experienced?
I'm a do what makes sense kind of a gal. So it's not so much, oh, is this one better all around or is that one better all around? I have clients who do a mix. I also have clients who their topic or their experience is not going to be a great fit for a keynote audience. Maybe they don't have corporate experience or they just don't have a topic that really fits well with what people would pay for. And then I also have people who charge a lot of money for their services and could make way more money if they got one, maybe even two clients at one talk could easily outweigh the amount of time it would take them to build up to that keynote fee opportunity.
Yeah.
So I think, and for me, it's really about serving an audience that wasn't at the time served very well. I would say back in, I've been doing this over 10 years. And at that time, it was a lot of talk about paid keynote. And I'm like, but what about the person who maybe there's a life coach person, they just got their certification and they really want to use speaking. They have a lot of expertise to share, but they're not really cut out or ready or marketed yet for a paid keynote. So where do they start? And that's kind of my people. I'm like, let's get you started. You can't just always just jump right into that realm if you don't have any experience, you've had no feet on the ground. There's a lot of things that happen, especially in the first, I say, 100 talks that you give, even if it's in the back of Denny's. And I'm not saying that's where you need to start, but I'm just saying, like, you learn a lot in the first 100 audiences that you speak to. You get better at flow, you get easy with the tech. You've probably had just about every challenge thrown at you that you could think of. So that makes it, when the stakes get higher, when someone's actually paying you, your nervous system can then calm down a lot easier when you've had those boots on the ground.
I 100% agree. And I think that the audience is often underestimated with regards to how much they can build your business for you, how much they're worth monetarily, just one audience, even if it's a smaller size audience. Sometimes those smaller sized audience actually bring more revenue because it's just a more intimate setting. Just the wealth of all the different layers of prosperity there in the audience. That host check is nice, but it will never, ever, ever, even though it's WPC Speakers Global's focus, corporate training and keynoting. But honestly, I love the blend because that keynote check, even if it is a $25,000 keynote check, there's a lot of competition for those checks. There's a rhythm and a system to get those, but the audience will always outpace any check you get from any check or any benefits that you get from the event itself. So you talked about collecting data, and you're so right. That first, nobody wants to pay their dues of 100 talks before they really start seeing, the ROI. And of course, you're making money along the way. But there's an on-ramp, and it's not a short on-ramp. But those speakers and corporate trainers willing to pay that cost, they're the ones who really make that strong 6 figures and above, right? Those who wish for a speaker life, but they're not willing to do that on-ramp, they're kind of going to be in for some disappointment. We face that with speakers every single day. They want it's really interesting, Leisa. Tell me your concept on this. But people understand or your perspective on this. People understand the concept of building a business. If you're going to go to SBA or to your bank and say, "Hey, I'm going to start a gas station on the corner," right? Number one, they're going to tell you don't expect ROI in the first 3 to 4 years. Number two, they're going to make sure you can carry yourself that long and that you're willing to invest not only time and money, but also strategy, right? Into making you stand out from all the other gas stations. So it's really common when you're talking about building a viable, profitable business. But when it comes to speaking, Leisa, I don't know where the disconnect happened, but speakers just think they can sit on somebody's roster and they're going to make it. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a tough one. I really appreciate this question. Sometimes our dreams haven't been right fitted with our experience yet. And we don't want to be dream crushers, but we also want to be realistic. It's like, I want to be in the NBA, but I haven't learned how to play basketball yet, but I know I could. You're like, okay, well, that's a great dream, but we need to take steps to get there. Same thing with speaking. You could have a dream, you could have a powerful message, but if you don't actually go through the motions, they talk about the 10,000 hours, and I'm not even saying 10,000 hours. I mean, maybe even 100 hours, 1,000 hours, something like that. Like, we got to get you started. And allowing yourself to learn. I think that sometimes there's a expectation of, well, I've been speaking my whole life. I talk all the time. It's different. It's like you could say, well, I eat all the time, but do you eat healthy? There's two different ways to do things. And even, I would say, even myself with my bachelor's and master's degree, I mean, I was teaching at a university at 22 years old. I was teaching communication. And still, when I went out as a 40-year-old speaking, I thought, oh man, there's some things I don't know about this. And it wasn't so much that I wasn't scared to speak. I had no problem getting on stage, but I certainly am not going to get up there if I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not prepared. And also, as a business owner, I'm like, am I leaving money on the table? I don't want to do that either. So
Mhm.
you want to really know, I always say, you want to know the rules of the game that you're playing so that you can win.
Ooh,
And if you're not willing to play the game or learn the rules, how do you expect to win?
you said some really key things there. Okay, first of all, earlier you said you're a teacher disguised as a speaker. I love that because that means you're giving more than you're
Yes.
taking. And that's what is going to create those fans that will follow you anywhere and do your next thing, right? Speaking is really the first step in a journey. It's not the how far can you bring someone in 45 to even 90
Yeah.
minutes? So, with that mentality, people will latch on and follow you, which is what you want, because that's where you can make the greatest impact. And that's where you get those unpaid ambassadors and that momentum that's flowing that includes income. And then you just said a really cool sentence, but essentially,
I was like, if you don't know the rules, how can you win the game if you don't know the rules of the game?
I love that. Yeah. How can you win? You don't know what you don't know. How
Yeah.
can you win the game if you don't know the rules? That is so brilliantly said, because and maybe, people have heard it, but they don't really sink in. You can be an amazing speaker, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be a prosperous one. So how did you start out of those 80 plus right out of the gate?
Mhm.
First of all, how did you get them? And you're exactly right. You're collecting data not only on the audience, but yourself on what organizers and decision makers actually want. There's this whole ecosystem you're figuring out in those first
Mhm.
100 engagements,
Yeah.
10,000 hours or whatever it is. So where was the breaking point where you really started seeing momentum after all of that initial investment that you put in of your time and energy and getting yourself out there?
Well,
Number two question. So
yeah,
one,
there's
how the
so
heck
many
did you
questions
get
there.
them? How'd you start? And
Okay.
two, then how did you figure out the rhythm?
Yeah, so many things I could say. So how did I get started? I like I said, that was my ignorance on fire era. They said, go get speaking engagements. I said, okay. And I knew, I will say, because I was working with this company, they had a talk that they wanted me to give. They had an offer I needed to give. And that was it. Like, and so I practiced and got coached and practiced and coached. And I don't mean memorized, but just really like embodied it. Right. So I did my prep work ahead of time. I knew my offer. I practiced how to give the offer. And then I thought, okay, who do I know who might know someone who has a stage? And I wrote a list. And this is super old school. I mean, this is before AI was, this was before Facebook Live was even invented. So I thought, okay, where can I go? Who can I call? So I started calling people that I knew in networking, just that I had met. And this one gal who I still know to this day, she's amazing. She said, well, I have a group. You could speak for my group. And I said, oh, cool. And this kind of ties into our second question a little bit, because you said, well, how did you, pay the dues and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
This is for anyone in the audience who's like, well, how does that happen? Like, I have to have every single thing in place first. So she offered me a stage. It was 10 people in a small conference room, all business leaders. And I did not have, at that time, I had zero speaking engagements, zero email list, zero clients, zero sold anyone from anything from any stage. And I had a flip chart and some markers. Okay. No PowerPoint, no projector, no microphone, nothing. And out of the 10, 3 people took me up on my offer. It was about a $300 workshop. And 2 of those people ended up spending tens of thousands of dollars with the company. So I think sometimes they think, oh, I got to pay my dues. I got to get my name out there. No, don't think of it that way. Not that you don't need to pay your dues or get your name out there, but that's not your goal. Your goal is to what? To generate profit, to generate clients in your business, to have a successful business, and of course make an impact and help people. We already know that you're doing that anyway, but you have to think of your own business model too. And if anything else, like let's say at that time no one signed up, okay, could I have gotten testimonials? Could I have gotten written or video testimonials? Like, you always want to think, how I always say, squeeze the most juice out of the lemon. Like what can you, if you put your time and effort into something, what's going to help your business from that time and effort?
Yeah, there's definitely different forms of currency. And sometimes the higher value of currency isn't necessarily in the actual money that you get, if it's going to lead to greater opportunities. And you can never prejudge. Sometimes one engagement can just lead you in a whole trajectory that you could have never predetermined if you
Mm-hmm.
if you hadn't put yourself out there. So love your philosophy, and I love that you were okay with the $300
Yeah.
$300 takers
Sales,
on
yeah.
your offer for that particular engagement, because again, short-sightedness versus long-sightedness. Some of those clients, their lifetime value became, I think you said, 6 figures. So we've got to have that long range of vision of what an audience is really worth. And what we think we want or need isn't always what is actually going to build that lucrative, prosperous speaker life. And when I say that, I'm not just talking money, although the money is really good once you get to that place. But just the lifestyle overall, and knowing that you're making an impact, and you are the answer to the prayers of those people who are coming to see you. They have a problem they want to solve. They want one piece of solution that can get them to their next level. So that steps me into the types of stages.
Mhm.
You talked about you were able to make an offer from that particular stage. There's a lot of times where you cannot make an overt offer, but you can offer value,
Yes.
which can lead to offers. So
Right.
let's talk about that. So in my world, there's 3, but I'd like to see if you go beyond that, or if you go deeper. The first is just giving them the next step. It's day 1, give them a day 2. So after you leave here today, don't just put your notes on your desk and never look at them again. This is your next step, right? Just really kind of giving them that inspiration, because if they implement and they see some sort of micro transformation, they're not going to forget you and they're going to seek you out. So there's that. The other is you can give them a free gift, and that gets them into your nurture funnel. These days, QR codes are amazing for that. Or there's all different ways that you can do that. You can offer them a call with you to strategize some of what you had taught them that day. And then the third, which is what you had just described, is that paid offer. So it's just every stage is going to be a little bit different. How do you, what is your approach to those? And did I leave any out that you see?
Oh, no, I love this conversation. It's so exciting. So, yeah, or offer, call to action, CTA, however you think of it. So, when I create a talk for someone, we start with the CTA, that invitation to the next step, whatever that is for the person. And I say that because a lot of times people come to, I know this is a little bit off of what our question was, but a lot of times people think, oh, they're only thinking about the title of their talk and what it's all going to be about. And I'm like, well, we need to know where we're taking people so that everything else in front of it makes sense, so that we're traveling along, and we also have your business in mind of like what makes the most sense, what would you feel comfortable with. And so I do believe that, I, I think those are like, that's a really good headline of those three offers. Yeah, that makes sense. I think the mistake people make is not giving one at all, or being really vague about it, or it's kind of like an afterthought of like, oh, just call me if you, or reach out to me if you need anything, or some lame confusing, vague offer. And that comes from that fear of sales, fear of putting ourselves out there, but it also comes from lack of preparation. And of course, just as a blanket statement here, which I'm sure you always tell your people, it depends on the venue, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what are the parameters, what's the agenda, all those things need to come in place. So even if someone does a quote unquote paid offer, that needs to be cleared before you go on stage and start, having people get their credit cards out. You need to make sure that that's in line with the host, the meeting planner, the organizer, the event, etc. Typically, that's not okay when you're doing a keynote. That is pretty much probably 100% no, no thing. But oftentimes, people in my world will be told, oh, there's no selling from stage. And they'll make an assumption that that means they can't say anything, that they can't offer a free XYZ. So I always encourage, find out more. Say, oh, tell me what you mean about that. Like, what does that mean in your world? I don't want to make any assumptions. Does that mean I can do this? Does it mean I can do that? Or does it mean no on this? And you want to be super crystal clear, because as the speaker, you probably agree with this too, is like, you are the captain of the ship, the pilot of the plane, the tour guide, like you're in charge. And if you don't know where you're going, or you're confused or not sure, then the safety of the room is at risk. So I always say, like, you got to be 100% clear on what you're offering.
Ooh, the safety of the room is at risk. And ask, right? Ask
Yes.
not, receive not. Ask and thou shalt shalt
Yeah, because
receive.
a lot of times they'll say, oh, they said I couldn't sell it. I said, well, did you ask what that meant? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, usually a free offer is okay. And I'll even give you what I would, and give the listeners what I would used to say when I was doing these. I'd say, oh, so I'd say, well, typically, the audience wants to know what the next thing that they can do, or if they're really excited, by the time we're done, they're like, oh my gosh, I want more. So is it okay if I offer them another step so that they can, get this free blah, 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 or this ticket to something, or a call with me, or whatever? And they go, oh yeah, they would love that. That would be great. So usually in our mind, we have a no, but it's like we ask and we have a yes. So definitely ask.
So good. And what you said about it being kind of an afterthought thrown in at the end is such a rookie move. It's so rookie, and it's killing. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. So I'd like to dive in to that with you, since you brought it up
Yeah.
a bit more, because in my world, you seed from the moment you walk onto the stage, you're seeding the bigger solution, which is often leads to a bigger sale, or at least following you to the next level of your talks or workshops or whatever it might be. And you're seeding it because they are there for a solution. So during that initial talk, you're basically just telling them what the possibilities are, right? You're giving them some inspiration that whatever it is possible. You might give them one actionable step, but there's only going to be one micro transformation, maybe two or three at most, right? In a given talk. They're not going to get that life-shattering result, and they're there because they're looking for a solution. You are answering a problem that they are facing. So it's not, you don't have to beg to tell them that there's a solution and you've got it. They want to know that, okay, Leisa, you gave me this. Great. I can do this thing, but I don't want to do it alone. And what are my first steps? So you're giving them that. And even on the rare stage, really, I really think it's the rare stage that won't even allow you to offer a free gift, but there are some out there. So even on those stages, you can still seed by, I worked with XYZ and these are the results they got. I did this and this was the outcome. So you're using those anecdotes, those examples, and those people sitting in the audience are like, I want that. That's the thing I want. That's what I've been needing. Right? And they're going to seek you out. So there's all different kinds of ways. If you are afraid or if you're apologizing for the solution you bring, you're kind of in the wrong business, right? Or you're just very, very new and you're going to figure it out because you are not begging to give them your solution. You are generously offering them a solution to whatever problem it is that you're facing. Or maybe it's not even a problem. You're just at a plateau. You want to get to the next level. You want to have some inspiration, whatever it is, however you approach the speaking space and the training space, your unique superpower, they're there because there's something in it that they need and want. So I really love some of these points that you brought up. Do you have anything more to say to any of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, I love that we're talking about seeding because I think it's probably not talked about enough. In fact, I've got a LinkedIn newsletter coming out in a couple of months about that. I was like, wait, no one knows about this. Why are they not talking about this? And it can be really natural sounding. And it's also a skill that if you've never done it before, you need to start reminding yourself to do it and actually intentionally put it in certain spots. And as I'm having this conversation, I'm like, oh, have I even seeded? And I'll give an example of one right now because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I have. So here's an example of like, in the Speakers Training Academy, we work on problems just like this. We figure out how would you seed in your talk? How would you have a call to action that feels natural so that you can attract your ideal clients from stage, no matter if it's big or small. So that would be a seeding example, just in case like someone's listening and they're going, what is seeding? What does that mean? I didn't know what it was when I first started speaking. So
Yeah, and thank you for diving into that because I know you get further on down in the industry and certain terminology feels really natural, but seeding might not be obvious to everyone. So thank you for going deeper into that. And basically, it is kind of offering proof to your process from the get-go. And never lead with resume, lead with outcome, lead with possibility, lead with big picture. Whether it's in your talk or your pitch to the engagement manager, lead with, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I need. Okay. And why is it Leisa that's going to give me that? Then the resume is relevant. But I see so many speakers, Leisa, tell me if you do too, who lead with, I'm so great because I've accomplished this and I had a TEDx talk and I have a book, all the things. I don't care until I care. Tell me why I care first.
yeah. Yeah. And I think too, just on another note of it, is that seating can be delicately, professionally put in different spots. Like it might be in your bio, it might be in your intro, it might be somewhere on your site, your landing page. It probably is. And then it can be in your stories. It can be in the name of your program. It could be, there's all these different ways that you could use it. And I remember I had a gal come and watch one of my workshops that I used to give these workshops in person about how to get speaking gigs now. And I had her audit it because I knew she works with all these like big time speakers. I'm like, can you just sit there and give me all the feedback? And she did. And I remember being so bummed out because I didn't get any sales, and I just poured my heart out. Like I just left it all on the floor. And then we met after a few days later, and she's like, well, you never seeded your program. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you never talked about your program until you were giving the offer. And I thought, right, yeah, because I was teaching the whole time, like I'm giving all this stuff. And that was a hard lesson to learn. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me that, because no one ever told me. I
Right.
didn't
And
know.
it's just that's that age old, tell them what you're going to tell them the
Tell
thing,
them what you told
then
them.
tell them what you told them, right? People need that. You're kind of fresh and new. There's a lot of new information coming at them in a very short amount of time. Um, make it simple. I think an over complex, that's another thing I see speakers do. They try to accomplish too much in one sitting. If it's over complex, a confused mind doesn't buy. And an overly stuffed person, where you might have just given them everything, but an overly stuffed person is not going to go for the next thing because they're still digesting what you just
Oh my
gave
gosh,
them.
we are so aligned, Antonia. I call it Thanksgiving dinnering your audience.
I call it pouring the whole pot of pasta on their heads.
We're
So tell me, let's shift a little bit to, okay, I've been speaking. I know I'm pretty good at speaking. I know people actually like it when I get up and speak, and I really like to do more of this. Where, if you were to restart today, Leisa, where would you begin? And what is the number one? I know there's many, but let's say the number one speaker strategy that will definitely fill their calendar in time, right? I did. It's not a magic
Mhm.
potion or pill, but in time, if they do this one thing and don't relent, even after disappointments, they're going to make it if they just press through.
Well, this is why I have the International Speaker Network. It's because of this very thing, and why I book 10 years now without any cold outreach.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't do any cold outreach because my strategy is different. Again, we have different strategies for different games.
Yep.
And it's something I call having a speaker soulmate. And that is finding your aligned speaking referral partner, for lack of a better word, right? That partner, there's three components that I think you should be looking for. One is, do they speak a similar frequency as you? Like, are you kind of playing the same game, right?
Yeah.
Roughly, because that'll make it fair. You know, if you've got a Barbie car and they've got the Barbie dream house, well, then you guys are a good match, right?
Yep.
And then number two, do you like, trust, know them? How's that developed? That doesn't mean you need to know them since kindergarten, but just you're like, oh, we're aligned. Like I think I want to work with this person. And then the trust obviously is going to deepen over time. It's not instant, but like you're like, okay, well, let's try this one referral. Let's just, oh, that worked out pretty good. Okay, let's do the next one. And you see, like, is this person on time? Are they reliable? Are they following up? Are they showing up? Are they doing the thing they said they were going to do? All those things, that's what trust gets developed. And then number three is that they speak to a similar audience, but they're not speaking exactly on the same thing, because that makes it easier for you to pass along that referral. If I spoke to this, association XYZ in May, and I know they need a speaker in September, I can say, oh, this person, my speaker soulmate, would be great for your audience. Let me make that introduction. Now that saves everyone a lot of headache, time, figuring out where's the person, what's their name, what's their deal. And this could be for podcasts too. And when you find those aligned partners, instantly you collapse time. You take that soul sucking, cold reaching outing activity off the table for the most part, as much as you can. I mean, you can limit that as much as you can. I think
So much good stuff there. So I think that those who see an enemy or a threat behind every corner, they're not going to make it. They're operating in a law of scarcity, and that's a real thing scientifically, versus a law of abundance. So some people might say, Leisa and Antoniette, why aren't you competitors? No, you approach the
wrong.
industry in the way that's going to attract the people that are going to be attracted to Leisa. I approach the industry in ways there might be a little overlap, but it's all good. It's all about collaboration versus competition.
And I
So,
don't even think we do the same thing at all anyway. So I mean, like really, it's very different.
yeah, we serve
We don't
speakers,
do
but in very different ways.
Yeah, very different.
So a lot of people don't know this about me, but early in my 20s and 30s, I ran a bed and breakfast and 2 retreat centers, and I loved it. It was a great season of my life. A lot of flipping work, but I really did enjoy it, along with my other businesses that I was running. And there was this association that would meet once a month of all the kind of regional bed and breakfast and innkeepers, bed and breakfast owners and innkeepers. We'd come together, we'd share recipes, we'd share, ups and downs and secrets and all of those kinds of things. I was a long running innkeeper. Usually the burnout rate for innkeepers is about 2 to 4 years because it's romanticized. But then, when you're cleaning toilet number 1000, making the beds and dealing with sometimes not so peaceful people, no matter how sweet your little respite is, it can get very wearing on you. And that's what these types of associations were for. And so those who came and were abundantly giving, yeah, let's refer back and forth. Here's my recipes. Here's how I handle registration, all the things. Those people who were generous were the most long lived and the most successful. Those who are like, I'm not going to share anything ever. Yeah, I'm not going to risk losing a guest because they might like the other place better. Well, if they like the other place better, it's because the other place was probably better for what they wanted. Own your superpowers and know you're not going to be all things to all people. So I just wanted to preface that it's a parallel kind of example of giving and giving abundantly and not being afraid and collaborating within your industry versus just always being a little bit feeling like you're going to be threatened or fear of loss. I guess you cannot outgive either your audience or your colleagues in your industry. There's so much for everyone, and the more we work together, the better. So if you're stepping out into this world of speaking, do you hear this, Leisa? This drives me crazy. And actually, I recently turned down, well, I say recently, it was about a year ago, turned down a speaker who is very well known, but because she said one line, I turned her down. And people are so afraid of giving away their IP and other people stealing it. Let me just tell you, you've written 9 books. People are going to steal your IP, but they can never steal you. Right. You are the only one that can deliver. Do you see how many people have stolen Tony Robbins stuff, right? It's really the best form of flattery that there is. And people will recognize, oh, that's Leisa's voice. They're really kind of just mimicking what Leisa Reid always says. So there was this one speaker, and I was very close to bringing her in, enrolling her into active representation and scaling her speaking and corporate training business, until she said she was a leader in the NSA, and she's lovely, amazing woman, very dynamic, so fun. I would have loved to work with her, but she said this one line, and that is she had quit the NSA because someone in the group had stolen some of her IP and the NSA didn't kick them out. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer, when somebody steals something you've worked so hard for, but it's just such a small mentality that I can work with character and get them to the next place. But there's certain mentalities to me are very hard to work with. So can you speak to some of all that jumble that I just shared, Leisa?
Yeah, I agree with the abundance mentality. And I think that's sometimes people are more individual sport players versus team sport players. And I think you can go a lot farther in speaking if you adopt the team sport mentality. We're like, oh, it's because it's ironic. As speakers, we love speaking to an audience. So it's kind of a solo thing. Like you're prepping, you're practicing, you're coming up with your stuff, you're up on stage by yourself. So there are these individual player components of it, But to get on that stage, that's where the team supports you. You support the team. And when you play with others really well, you're going to get a ton of support. I was just talking to a new client earlier before our conversation today, and she's like, how do I do this? How do I find the places? And so I go, come to the International Speaker Network. All the people in there, no, they have the keys to the kingdom, but you got to show up. They're not just going to throw the keys at your face. You need to go and let them know, here's who I am. Here's what I'm about. Who are you? Tell me what you're about. Like, just coming up to expect to get isn't going to serve you as much as going to give.
Ooh, that was a good line. Coming to get is not as powerful or effective as coming or going to give.
Yeah.
So you talked about finding that kind of referral soulmate, and just like romantic relationships, you cannot find that soulmate if you're hiding. And an organization, a group like International Speakers Network, you've got to be findable.
You got to show up. You got to show up and then have your stuff ready. Like, you're probably at this where someone's like, I want all the speaking engagements. I'm like, okay, well, what do you speak on? Oh, I haven't figured that out yet. Oh, okay. Well, do you have a speaker sheet? Oh, I'm working on it. Like, do you have yeah, come on. Now you gotta bring something. You gotta bring something. And if you're working on it, that's fine. Just continue working on it. And then when you're ready, you can share it.
Yep. Okay, so this is a perfect time to, I know by this time in the show, there are plenty of our SpeakPack listeners curious about, how do we find Leisa Reid? How do we find the International Speakers Network? So how do you like to be found, Leisa?
You can find me at getspeakinggigsnow.com/tips. In fact, that's where you could get 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs there. And I am on LinkedIn and Facebook, but LinkedIn's probably the best way. And my name is spelled a little funny. Why not? Can't be boring. So it's Leisa Reid. Don't expect you to remember that. But if you go to get the tips, you'll see it.
For sure. And we'll have all of this in the show notes, but it's Leisa Reid for those of our audience who are just listening in and not seeing her name written. It is unique, just like she is, but it is still it's still pronounced Lisa. And
That's right.
I wanted to call you Lisa or something.
I have heard so many different pronunciations, and I answered all of them.
I bet. Okay, so I love your kind of outline of how to best utilize those soulmate relationships, and I so agree with you. This industry is all about relationships, and the more you give, the more you get. It's just kind of the law of how it all works. So you want to link arms, though, when it comes to actually linking arms with somebody, they have to have a similar vibe, similar mission, frequency, you said. I love that. At the same time, I've seen some real opposites come together and it really works. I'm thinking of the guy who always cusses. He drives me crazy. What's his name? I see his face.
Oh,
It's just
it's the
totally.
only one I had in
Anyway,
my
I've seen pairs that seem very opposite, but they just work together. They just work really well together. I think it's in those cases, Larry. Okay. Anyway, if you can offer the audience a solution from 2 different points of view that come together, but at the end of the day complement one another, then there are ways that you don't have to get on stage together. Sometimes that works, but you can certainly collaborate. So frequency, and then you do have to know, like, and trust them. There's integrity at stake, right? And if it's somebody who turns out to be a spammer or sleazy in any way, you don't always see that on the surface. So do your homework, know that person. I say start off small, do a small project, and then build from there as that trust builds. You talked about trust building over time. And then obviously you need to have a shared audience, but serving them in either similar but different ways, or completely different ways but same audience, or exactly the same, but your approach is going to appeal to some and the other person's approach can appeal to others. Sometimes it's a pure collaboration where you bring your offers together. There's just so much. The sky is the limit. So, can you speak to your soulmate? And you just have one?
Mhm.
Do you double date?
Oh yeah, you can have more than one. You can have more than one. But you don't really need more than five, so like anywhere between one and five will keep you everyone feeding, eating healthily.
Do you also to consider a soulmate as a possible kind of interchangeable with a sponsor? Because I've worked with speakers
Okay.
who have a company who actually sponsors, so they pay their speaker fee, they go and talk, they are monetizing the audience, but they're not going it without any pay at all.
Yeah, I mean it's probably a similar thing in like how you work with people and things like that. Yeah.
And then let's talk about books. You have 9. Do you feel like that helps you get more stages? What are the purpose behind your books, and what are some of the core strategies that you found of the most effective way to utilize books? And are books then themselves strong monetizer?
Oh, we have to have another podcast for me to talk about all that. But
We might
there's
have to do that.
out of the 9 that I have, there's the one that I use that the most often. Here, I'll hold it up. I have it right here. The Get Speaking Gigs Now
Okay,
one.
by Leisa Reid.
And so this is the one I use the most for my business. And then, but I started my first book was in an anthology because I was tired of people saying, "Oh, you can bring your books," and I was like, "Oh, I don't have one," and I need to fix that problem. So that's I think a really easy landing spot. It's like so simple. You write one chapter, someone else does all the work, perfect, done. And then but my first book that I wrote on my own was for a different company that I had at the time. And so that was, I felt like giving birth. This one was a lot easier for me, but it was my third one. And then since then, I've been in other anthologies and allows you to have the international best-selling status without having to do a whole heck of a lot of lifting. And that's nice. I think sometimes people get caught up in thinking that once they have a book, then they will have, and I'm like, well, no, it's another, building in the village that you're building, building in the empire that you're building. Um, it's not that necessarily the end all be all, but it helps to square up your credibility. Some people like to have a book. Some people, purchase my audiobook because they want to hear me talk about it. It just depends on what your goal is and what you're
So
trying to
many,
do.
right? So much
So many,
possibility. So much
yeah,
possibility. I'm going to ask you one more question, then we'll go to our signature question.
yeah.
But I just want to hone in before we close, because this is your area of specialty, on business owners. And there's a lot of business owners who don't necessarily aspire to be a speaker.
Mhm.
They're leaving, in my estimation, they're leaving so much possibility and profitability on the table if they're unwilling, whether it's local, regional, or global, whatever really fits. So for those business owners who feel like, I don't know how to give a talk,
Right.
what would you say to them?
Well, you're often sitting on so much knowledge that other people can benefit from. One of my clients, he used to own, I don't know, probably 70 franchises and then sold them, got an offer he couldn't refuse. And he was sitting on all these stories and all this success. He'd helped so many people make so much money. And he's like, I want to help other franchise owners, but I don't I don't know how to bottle up all this knowledge. So we started capturing some of his stories. And even before he set foot on the stage, he was talking about, he was sharing one of these stories and he ended up getting a multi-million dollar equity deal out of sharing that story.
Wow.
So sometimes it's not a stage, it's a conversation. We just haven't learned yet how to bottle up our content.
Ooh, okay. So what I'm hearing you say, which I fully agree with, is it's really not about the talk. It's about that one change, that one transformation you can bring. And when was the last time you got nervous helping someone? Like if you're there to really help,
Yeah, so
there's
fun.
really can't go wrong. Um, and like you said at the beginning of this show, the more you do it, the more you get in tune with your style of delivery, what people are leaning into, what organizers are actually wanting. That all comes organically as you do the thing.
Absolutely.
So important. Okay, Leisa, you know the show, you know Speak Pact, and you know that we are all about scaling the universal pact to make the greatest impact with the power of our voices as possible. What is some challenge that you can give to the Speak Pact audience today that they could go and do without a whole lot of planning or preparation that
Easy.
will move the dial in helping them get that calendar income certain for themselves?
Easy. Just write down 3 names that come to mind that could potentially be your speaker soulmate and reach out to them, text, email, pigeon, carrier pigeon, smoke signal, and set up a virtual coffee with them and just say, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about referring each other through speaking? Are you interested? That's so easy. We can all do that. Free, easy, in your hands.
Okay, so you start off simple, right? Just start the
Simple.
conversation. Let's start referring each other. So now let's go down the road a little bit. When that starts scaling, what are the nuts and bolts, Leisa, of true, like, prolific referral relationships? Do you need to set up a landing page? Do you need to set up referral affiliate links? Like, what are the kind of, how do you go about this? And what's the offer for one another? Is there a commission structure? Kind of dive into that.
Yeah, just I would say first off, just keep it super simple. Keep it simple. Like, are we even going to be having a conversation? Do we even want to work together? What would that look like? And then set up your own cadence, your own frequency. How many times do we need to meet? What does that look like? I mean, I can go further into details, but I think at this point we've given
Do a
enough.
LinkedIn newsletter on this at some point, and everybody
Oh,
go to LinkedIn, connect with Leisa Reid, and she's got a really great, strong newsletter as well. You go speak. I'll finish off. Ciao, ciao for
thank
now.
you. Bye.
All right. And for the Speak Pact audience, I'm going to answer that question from my perspective here a little bit. And I also want to let you know about the Keynoters High Impact Edge newsletter that WPC, that me and WPC Speakers Global puts out on LinkedIn, completely free and just packed with even more uh, deep industry insights. So you definitely want to, number one, if you're a speaker or corporate trainer, you should absolutely have a LinkedIn profile. And once you do, connect with me and you'll be automatically invited to subscribe to my free newsletter. It comes out once a week. But with regards to building those referral relationships, really in this age of kind of mass outreach and spamming and all of the things that you and I face every single day, coming from every direction, from our phone, from our DMs, from our emails, the traditional ways to really build a following and bring in new leads has shifted quite a bit. Referral relationships are a very, very strong way to do that. And that can look very different for every single person. But eventually you really should have a solid CRM, and affiliate links are great so that you can definitely reward the referrer. Make it as easy as possible for the referrer. Either have URL direct for them, like ours is speakersglobal.com/and whatever their name is. Super, super simple. Make it easy for them. And don't ask them to do too much for you, right? Give them something that they can give their people in your name. So you're not asking them to get on a one-to-one call with the person they're going to refer to talk you up. You're just, hey, I know of XYZ person who actually specializes in that part of business that you're or situation that you're dealing with. Go to, .com and check it out. I think it could be useful to you, right? Make it really, really easy. And then in an automated way, that referrer is given credit, so that if that person becomes a client, you can send a commission or a thank you gift just to keep that relationship alive. Again, it's more about giving, and you do give to receive. It's just how the world rolls. So think more in terms of low barrier to entry, give more than what you're asking for, and it all comes back around. All right, so that is the Speak Pact show for today. Join us again next week. We always have amazing speakers, as you know. Share, like, love, all the ways that you can help us get this show into the eyes and ears of other people is your gift. So we can start right here, giving more than you receive. Hopefully you've received plenty today, though, being with me and Leisa. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Ciao, ciao for now.
Thank you for listening to the Speak Pact podcast. To become a recommended speaker of Antoniette's WPC speaker agency, or you are a host or planner looking for a dynamic expert in optimized performance, Antoniette would like to personally meet with you. Secure a time with her at speakerbooker.com. Again, that is speakerbooker.com. It all begins with a vision, a voice, and a pact to impact. Join the Speak Pact movement by joining our new private Facebook group at the link in our show notes. Find us on nearly every social media platform at One Antoniette. That's number 1, ANTONIETTE, or simply hashtag SpeakPact.